Earlier today, I went on the premium section, and of course there's a lot of articles about tomorrow, the game, Iowa State, and much more, even the basketball commit from this week and a few other notes. But there's also Grayson Grunhafer. Priority prospects head to Waco to see Baylor take on 14th-ranked Iowa State. Grayson Grunhafer, Sikkim365.com, does the Bearcast with Craig Tuesdays, and then also our recruiting analyst joins us. How big a weekend is this, Grayson? Is this, this is something that last year you couldn't do this. And so we've talked about visits and all of that. How big a weekend is this?
Yeah, for the Baylor side of things, this is a massive weekend. They're going to have over 30 prospects in attendance for this game. And just going through the list, it's pretty much guys who have been made priorities probably since the very beginning of their recruitment. Obviously, there's 11 of the 19 commits will be there. There could be a couple more of the commits that end up going, but 11 for sure right now. And then in the 2023 class, a lot of guys that they've gotten, really good starts with. And so you kind of want to keep that momentum going. I know the expectation is for this class to be a top 25 class for 2023. And so they really need to get off to a good start. And I think this is an area where they can do that. This is a game where if you go out and play really, really well and prove that, you're one of the top teams in the Big 12 and you can compete with a team that a lot of people thought might be top 10 at the beginning of the year, that's definitely going to raise some eyebrows. And, a lot of really good players, a lot of talented players, 4-star, 3-star guys, even one that's a borderline 5-star. So, yeah, they're in pretty good shape this weekend.
Grayson, how do you see this game shaking out on Saturday?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a really good game, to be honest. I think the spread right now is 7 points. I think that's about right. I think Baylor's going to really fight Iowa State throughout. The only problem that I see is, Iowa State's been pushed a little bit. That Northern Iowa game, that's an in-state kind of rivalry game. Northern Iowa's a pretty good team at the FCS level. And then, of course, they played Iowa. And if you go back and watch the Iowa game, Iowa State basically handed Iowa the win. And so I think it's one of those things where you just you go, man, is Iowa State are they a really good team? Or are they a team that's just been, kind of playing these tough matchups and not really, living up to the hype? But in my opinion, I still think they're a really good team that's been tested by some early tough matchups. And I think that's going to help them against Baylor. Whereas on the Baylor side of things, they really haven't had to face a whole lot of adversity, nor have they played a defense that Iowa State's going to have. And so for me, I think this game is going to rest squarely on the arm of Gary Bohannon offensively. I think they're really going to have to extend the field with him, and he's going to have to make a lot of throws because I don't think they're going to turn around and hand the ball off as easily as they have the first 3 games of the season.
Grayson, given the competition level, we always have to kind of use that caveat, and thank God after this week we can stop saying that. But given the competition level, what have you taken away from what we've seen through Gary Bohannon in 3 games, and what's maybe been surprising, what was maybe expected or better than expected? Just kind of give us your breakdown on what you've seen from him.
Yeah, so I think first and foremost, he's proven that he can absolutely be a game manager, that he can absolutely run the offense and do the things needed for them to win games, if that makes sense. He's running the scheme really well, making the throws he needs to make within the offense, and that's really worked well for them. The first game of the year, I felt like he was a little inaccurate. I felt like he was a little indecisive with running. I felt like there were still some things that need to be cleaned up as far as him reading the field and reading the defense. And as these past 2 games have gone, I think he's gotten better at that. But you still see little flashes here and there, and you also are kind of, I think for most of us, you're left sitting there going, okay, is it the competition or is it Gary? And obviously Gary's looked really well and done some things really well, but I think for me going into this matchup, I think we're going to learn A, how good of a runner is Gary, B, how accurate is Gary with the deep ball, and C, can Gary play against this level of competition and excel? I think those are the 3 things we're going to learn. But outside of that, he's answered every question. He's been a really good leader for this football team, and he's performed really well in the games that he was supposed to perform really well in. So now it's just about taking that next step and really competing in the games that really matter those Big 12 games against the higher end opponents.
What would it mean? Not that they can, or that was not that they can't, but what would it mean if Gary can hit something somewhat deep? It doesn't have to be a 50, 60-yard touchdown or even but something where they have the ability now to perhaps test the secondary, at least we've discussed this, they now know he can do that, but whether they can do that against Iowa State remains to be seen. But how critical would that be to be able to get something like that off early?
Yeah, it would be a big deal. And if you go and watch the game in 2019, Baylor got off to a really, really good start in that game. And it honestly was in large part because Charlie Brewer did hit a couple deep shots downfield, and it really extended that Iowa State defense. And to be honest, I do think that's an area where Baylor should have success in this matchup. I don't view Iowa State as the most athletic team. They're not the team that, they get off the bus and you're scared. They're a team that's really well coached and they really are disciplined. But I think they can be exploited over the top, especially a guy like Tyquan Thornton, who had a big touchdown in the 2019 game. I think he could be a major factor in this one, taking the top off the defense. And, maybe we get to see a little bit more Drew Estrada, potentially maybe even a little bit more of Jalen Ellis, and that could help as well. So I think it would be huge because I think Iowa State's game plan in this is going to be take away the run and force Gary to beat them. And I think that's what you have to do against Baylor because it's clear the Bears want to run the football. So if you're able to take that away, now it's up to Gary to really make you pay for that. And so I'm really curious if he's able to do that. And I do think it'd be huge for his confidence if he's able to hit a couple deep balls. And I think, again, from a scheme standpoint, I think it would really help them attack the Iowa State defense if they're able to hit on a couple of those.
Back to the list of those coming into town, 22, 23, and 24 class of those classes. Do you have a priority list? Is it more a priority of 23? Is it making sure you just kind of make sure everyone's happy in 22? Because that's coming up here in a couple of months, signing day. Well, what would you say is the priority this weekend?
Yeah, I actually think the priority is the commit, because this is a big weekend for them. I mean, most of them are, really locked in. I would say pretty much all of them, I think, are really locked into the Baylor program and aren't really wavering at all. But you want to make sure that you continue that and that you're continuing to build those relationships and continuing to get them ready because, like you said, they're going to be signing here in less than 3 months. So you really want to solidify that. Now, I say that's the priority, but I know everyone wants to hear, okay, but, what's next? Because in recruiting, everyone wants to know, what's next in the class, what's going to happen. And I would say I think a big priority for me from the outside looking in is really the Killeen and Temple area. And the reason I say that is because they have, 5 really intriguing prospects who are going to be on campus in that area. And so, Baylor really needs to figure out a way to lock down that area and make sure that when there is an elite recruit in those areas that they're able to land them. So, a 2023 like Mikael Harrison Pilot, he's got 35 offers. Baylor wants to be in the running for him. They want to land him, and he's grown up a Baylor fan and grown up a kid that has been to a lot of Baylor games. And so getting him on campus early is huge. One of their most recent offers, Jaden Chapman out of Harker Heights. He's another one who them in Texas just offered. You need to be able to, win those battles and continue, building those relationships. And of course, out of Shoemaker, Kamari Terrell and Omari Evans are 2 names in the 2022 class that they've played really well this year and look like fantastic athletes and fantastic fits for the Baylor program. So I think that's just a really intriguing storyline that I'm going to be following because, Baylor's had some success here and there in the areas, but it feels like they could be on the verge of really taking another step and making sure that no one leaves that, that really core Central Texas area. And we'll see if they're able to continue to build that pipeline that they're trying to build up.
By the way, Franklin safety Bryson Washington, a guy that every week I get something from Franklin. He does it on both sides of the ball as well. Grayson, thank you very much. It will be, like we say, evidence. It's almost like the film doesn't lie. Well, we will know the scoreboard and what we see tomorrow. Thanks for your time every Friday, 3:45. Grayson Grundhafer, SicEm365.com recruiting analyst. When we come back, the 4 o'clock hour, we're going to get into some of the chat room discussion.